Hey all, this is 012 Boku, and
Who can make your day worse? Sprinkle it with cheer. Piss off your family whenever he is here. The jackass can. The jackass can.
that's Jarek the Jackass, folks. Yeah, so he's singing bubbly, except we're starting I told you we get there, and we finally made it in between the last movie review and the finishing of four episodes of Legion of Superheroes, last movie, and in between the anime reviews did, but we're gonna be taking a bit of a break after it because the first pilot was like a movie sort of thing, so it's only gonna be the pilot for this time and nothing else after. But for right now, we have finally begun
Ooh.
Twin Peaks. Well, that is probably one of the best movie things where I've not gotten that much glare. Well, thank you, Gold Box. Yeah, Twin Peaks, the pilot episode, because it wasn't episode one. It's always been known as Twin Peaks pilot. And basically, whatever you've heard about Twin Peaks, if you've not seen it, we will do our best to explain the show or for like the very long, because this pilot, and I know there's several other episodes of the show. It's like a feature length movie. It's an hour and a half long, the pilot's runtime, because that's what they did. They wanted to make it like a movie because again, they thought this thing possibly would. I've been watching the special features even on the Blu-ray version, and they even said David Lynch and Mark Frost did not expect this pilot to be successful. They didn't expect I think they were slated for 7 episodes originally. They didn't expect any of those to be successful. So they thought this pilot would have been a one and done thing. Nobody would be into it. How wrong they were.
Yep.
And as it goes, how to start this off, you'll see a character. If you guys have the Blu-rays, I think it's on most of the DVDs of this, and like the definitive DVD edition, like I have there, and like I said, the Blu-rays. They give when the show came out, there was Log Lady intros by a woman named Margaret Lanterman, who's played by Catherine E. Coulson, who is native to Washington State, and she gave these not reviews, but messages or omens, as I call her, because I like to call the Log Lady the Oracle. You sort of probably understand that as the show goes on, because she always knows what to say or what's going on with her log, because she always carries around a log. And she's weird because in the episodes you'll always see her chewing pitch gum from trees and sticking it in weird places in the Double R Diner, but she's more of like an oracle character, and she basically gives this sad, sombering thing where she talks about a girl named Laura Palmer, and all she says is Laura Palmer interacted with many. She was also surrounded by many, and many knew her. I knew her, and and then she goes into the town of Twin Peaks afterwards. How she says there's good things, there's dark things, there's many people who will do good, there's many people who are confused and do bad. There's also many evil things in Twin Peaks. But then she says they're all encompassed back to the one. Laura is the one.
You know, with how weird and esoteric her warnings always are, she kind of reminds me of like a neutral good version of Destiny from the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants.
Mm-hmm.
If any of you remember that character, yeah, she had the same deal, sees the future, always relays the information in a weird cryptic riddle you have to figure out.
But when you figure it out, it makes sense. And some of these riddles I've decrypted pretty well throughout the show. Some of them I haven't. This one is probably the most simple because a lot of people knew Laura. How they knew her remains to be seen. But a lot of people knew her, and a lot of people seem to love her. And you got to remember, as we go into this, it's a small town. A lot of people thought this show was hokey, and some people still do, thinking that, oh, it's a small town, everybody knowing each other, everybody being sad about this event. It makes no sense. And I'm like, again, 1950s based, small town community. It's a pretty big town, 52,000 people, so that's not necessarily a small town, but 52,000 people, but still, it's still an out-of-the-way town that people know of, but not many people know of, if you get my drift. And people would know each other if you were that type of a community. Everybody knew each other, and that's sort of what David Lynch was getting across, is that even in small town communities like this, you can have the weirdest and evilest stuff happen. If you guys want a refresher course on this or a prequel to this, I suggest watching Blue Velvet, which was essentially the same thing minus all the whimsicality and spiritualism.
Well, just to give you like a little bit of context on that, you said it's like a town of 52,000, right?
Yeah.
Like back when I was in high school, I think Tucson was like just over 1.5 million in population, and everywhere I went, I was running into people who knew everyone in my family. After school job at the U of A in high school. Hey, I know you. You're Eduardo's boy. You're Renee's son, right? No, but close enough. My dad dies. I go to the swap meet to sell. We have to sell some of the stuff to pay off the funeral expenses. I must have run into at least 2 or 3 of my old elementary school teachers. I go to high school. The nurse there used to be the librarian at my elementary school, and she still remembered me. I move up to over by the Mission. I run into the teaching assistant for my first grade teacher at a Chinese restaurant. It happens a lot more than you might expect.
Mm-hmm.
Heck, turns out I was related to my the first guy I worked for.
And as it goes along, you see what this will show. And as you can imagine, the opening credits won't interlay it. It's basically the background of the town and the forests, which or woods, however you want to say it, where green lettering shows up, bright green lettering with a dull, probably more like this, the dull golden center, and it's very cheesy, very eye-popping. But again, it's supposed to be filmed in, I believe, 1989, 1990. Show came out in 1990, filmed in 1989. So given that sort of old, cheesy, bubbly atmosphere that we still had in our shows back then, and as it goes, we basically have it cut to the river where the credits end, and as we have that, we cut to outside this log cabin, and this is where I'll try to go a bit quicker with it. We see where there's a man, Jack Nance, Pete Martell, who's played by Jack Nance, who's going fishing, seems to be in this log cabin with 2 other women, his wife, Catherine Martell, played by Piper Laurie, and Jocelyn Packard, his sister-in-law, essentially, played by Joan Chen. And funny thing is, Catherine doesn't seem to care that Pete's going fishing, and then Jocelyn, weirdly enough, looks like a femme fatale in the mirror doing her makeup, humming a weird song, and then just looks like that, as Pete goes out, just staring at him weird.
If you've ever seen, photos of the ladies of the street or ladies of the night in China, in the Red Lantern districts, looks like that, the nice slicked back hair, the really well done makeup. I mean, you can tell this girl's probably had a few side jobs in her time.
Yeah, and as you can see, probably also comes from some sort of wealth or goodness, given how she's dressing it, or she likes it that way. I sort of know what happens. Jared knows what happens, so we won't reveal it here. But
no happy endings for that one.
Indeed. But as you can see, Pete goes fishing. He's getting ready to go right near this big log on this stony sort of beach. He notices there's this big hunk of plastic that's laid out in almost like a straight line. He wonders what it is, never saw it before, goes up to it, realizes he's looking at what looks like a body wrapped in plastic, so he calls Harry S. Truman, played by Michael Ontkean, who is the sheriff of the town, Sheriff Truman. Yes, he is named Sheriff Harry S. Truman, folks. That is not a typo. That is his name. Sheriff Harry S. Truman, just to nail that in one more time. And he calls him, and he probably gives a great line in the show for the pilot. Harry, she's dead, wrapped in plastic. And it's just Harry doesn't even give it a second thought. He's like, wait, there's somebody dead? And, he tells Lucy Moran, who's his, telecommunications officer who runs all the phone calls. He says, Lucy, not a word of this to anyone. And, basically, him. Oh yeah, he calls the doctor, what was he say? I think they give his whole name. I know it's Dr. Hayward, but I want to try to get his whole name played by. Oh yeah, Dr. Will Hayward. Dr. Will Hayward, played by Warren Frost, and then he also brings along his deputy Andy, who's played by Harry Goes, and they go out to the beach, and all of a sudden, everybody's there. Catherine, Jocelyn, Pete. Pete is like still close to it. Harry and Dr. Hayward and Andy are trying to photograph it. Andy starts crying, and Harry's like, Andy, is this going to happen every damn time? This is exactly like what we found in the barn last year.
Yeah, you can tell like Andy and Lucy are special needs because like Lucy has to go into like autistic detail when she's going to transfer the phone to a different phone. It's like, okay, I'm going to transfer it to the red phone on the brown desk next to the brown chair, and Andy's just kind of looking like this one's like, she's kind of, you can tell like this town is
but not the black phone.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the town is so small, like either this was a favor for somebody who was on the force, or these were literally probably the only people they could find. I mean, it happens.
Yeah. That's also the thing in the show, and I'll admit there's 3 seasons of the show plus a prequel movie. And the prequel movie in the 3rd season, not so much, but they still have moments of it. But the Twin Peaks is also known for giving you very quirky moments that don't make sense. And I know people say sometimes it's just there, but I'm like, I think even the stuff that doesn't make sense has a way of fitting in the show. It's just that, like David Lynch has always said with his work, I want you to figure out my mysteries. What point did this have? And that's what it is. That's why he'll never give interviews where he gives up everything about all the magic of his movies. He will always say, I'll tell you a little bit, but I'm not telling you everything because I want you to figure it out. I want you to see if you know what me, any of my friends, or any of us are getting at with my movies. What do you think the mystery behind my stuff is? And I'm like, I actually like that in his directing decisions.
I told Boku, to me, this kind of makes David Lynch the American version of Satoshi Kon, if any of you anime fans know who that guy is. He's got a very similar, creepy, offsetting style.
Oh, you remembered his name now.
Yeah, I know.
I know. He couldn't remember his name. We watched the pilot and he was trying to remember during the pilot and he couldn't remember Satoshi Kon.
Hey, maybe it's all that ginkgo biloba I didn't take.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I told him it's like, and like to me, there's like 3 great horsemen of like the weird, creepy, great kind of mystery stories. It's like Satoshi Kon, David Lynch, and Stanley Kubrick.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you want some of the best shit out there, watch those guys. Hell, I told him Satoshi Kon managed to make the weirdest Christmas movie I've ever seen, and it was like the best thing I never expected.
Well, yeah, but that was such a good movie, though.
Which we may not have reviewed.
Oh yeah, well we'll probably do that. We'll probably save that for more towards the holidays when we do another one of our holiday reviews, since that is a Christmas movie. Plus, or if we want to do it for New Year's if we miss Christmas.
One of the fun things about this show is you can see like how dated it is. Like the intro, the film quality is looks like those old late 70s, handheld cameras you used to film family movies on. Even like you can even like see some of the like little tearing and whatnot. It's actually really neat. Like they still use the old rotary dials, the old dialogue rotary dial phones. There's like a scene coming up where you get to see a high school, and you can tell just by like the paint, the colors, the architecture that this is like a school probably built in the late 70s, but with a little bit of remodeling in the 80s. It's kind of neat when you see all these little, like, hell, we saw they had a gas station with a dude who's actually working it. It had the old-fashioned 60s pumps, but it still had a dude working the place, and he's living on site, so it's an older one.
Yeah, and as you can see that, with all that built to this and to that style, and getting back to this body, you have Sheriff Truman, Dr. Hayward, and Andy, who couldn't stop crying. They asked him to go get the stretcher, and Dr. Hayward and Harry turn it over, And Pete's like, just like, oh, I can't look at this. And then all of a sudden they pull the plastic back, and it's a very young, dead, beautiful girl named Laura Palmer, and it's actually Dr. Hayward who says it. And Harry's in shock. Dr. Hayward's actually starting to tear up a little himself because he knew Laura, delivered Laura, as we'll learn later in the show, and he knew her really well, and they're just like in shock about what this happens. Believe it or not, then, as it continues, we intercut to several things, and I'll basically jump between here because it starts with Laura's mother, Sarah Palmer, played by Grace Zabriskie, trying to find out where Laura is. She runs all throughout the house trying to call her, goes into the room, and the house actually has a very light, loving detail, like you can tell, sort of that 50s-ish, light and bubbliness. But when you go upstairs to the house's hallway, you see it's sort of dark up there, weird shadowing, and for some reason, probably based on, I won't reveal it now, but electricity to you guys, it focuses on the fan that's just sitting there spinning and listening to this rotary fan, and she's starting to freak out about her daughter. She starts making calls and calls Bobby Briggs, who is who's a football player in the Twin Peaks High School, played by Dana Ashbrook. She calls her parents, Mrs. Briggs and Deputy Major Garland Briggs, who are played by Charlotte Stewart and Don Davis, says, hey, was Laura with Bobby? And she's like, oh, well, we don't know. Maybe he's at practice. But call there and, try again and try other places. And, she calls the school. School hadn't seen him because Bobby's not been showing up to practices at all that week. And, you can see that weird stuff going on with Bobby here. But the funny thing is we have Sarah freaking out trying to look for Bobby. We notice Bobby's at the Double R Diner having like breakfast and coffee and talking to Norma, who I believe is, let's see, I want to make sure I get it right. I believe Norma is Peggy Lipton. Let me double check that. Peggy Lipton, Norma Jennings, yes, Norma Jennings, who's played by Peggy Lipton. He's basically chatting her up, and then all of a sudden, Shelley Johnson, played by Madchen Imik, comes out, and he offers to give her a ride, plays a very jazzy tune on the jukebox. That's like that.
And I love that old jukebox too. You only see those like at the really far out interstate diners anymore. Those old ones where you put in a quarter, you press the button, you see like the little record flip around until it gets to the one you want. God, I miss those, man. They used to have those at Furs.
I think everybody does, even the little mini ones you could play at restaurants. But you have this, and then all of a sudden, Bobby takes Shelley home, and then Bobby's giving Shelley a ride, and then all of a sudden they start spitting out sexual innuendos. I'll be your pocket rocket. Come on, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Have a belt, Bobby, as they're drinking booze, and all these types of things. So it's like, okay. And believe me, before you think this is weird and Bobby's a kid, I recently found out again watching special features, Norma apparently is supposed to be a high school student herself, but because she married early to a man named Leo Johnson, played by Eric DeRay, she had to take on, other responsibilities to try to help Leo keep their house they're trying to build and all these other things. So I guess she is essentially a high school student, but never did that because she married early. I'm going to say maybe a year or two ago to Leo Johnson. So I'm going to say maybe she's only 18, 17 years old, essentially, right now, and maybe married Leo when she was 15, 16. You may think that's weird too, but there's some states who will legalize that, or who knows, maybe they went into Canada to do it.
Yeah, because every state's got different things they will allow or when they allow it. Like, I know most people won't believe this, but back in like the 40s and 50s, you could marry your first cousin in Oklahoma. Yeah, not Oklahoma, Kansas. In Kansas, yeah, you wanted to make some flying monkeys? Go to Kansas.
And hey, there you go. They don't get into that. I'm just giving you the essentialism that, why was Bobby dating this way older woman? But now I've learned that Shelley wasn't that much older than him, so it isn't as bad as it looks. But as you can see, like, they're talking as they're giving all the innuendos, and Bobby says, well, where's Leo? Oh, don't worry, baby, Leo's in Butte. All of a sudden, the big silver truck, stop! Big silver truck in Butte. Here, drop me off here, and then, get out of here. And Bobby, after he drops off Shelly, Bobby, well, yeah, right then and there, basically where they stopped is where he dropped off Shelly, basically makes a U-turn, gets the hell out of there with a fearful look on his face, and to basically not go too long into it, after the discovery of Laura Palmer's murder makes the news, there's this part where Leo's going through cigarettes and basically asks Shelly to come talk to him. She goes over to talk to him and says, what kind of cigarettes do you smoke? You smoke these. What are these? Oh, I get different ones from Norman the Diner. Well, no, you don't. You only smoke one brand of cigarettes. If I see one different brand, I'm going to snap your neck like a twig. And I want this house clean next time. Okay, Leo, we'll do it. That's right.
Yeah, you can tell he's going full Ike Turner on her when no one's watching.
Yeah, like, I would say Leo would be like the renegade, rebel, bad boy who has serious anger management issues, and it's not even half of what he's done yet, and he's a pretty dark character himself. And I'll admit, I never did like the way Eric DeRay portrayed the character because I thought it was a little cheesy, but after I've rewatched it, I think Eric DeRay actually does a great job as Leo Johnson. It is just this really intimidating presence throughout the show.
He was just having a few too many wine coolers with Matthew McConaughey. It's just normal officer. She was like that when I found her.
Yep. And believe it or not, as we go along, as we sort of jumped ahead there, we actually see where there's a man named Benjamin Horn who owns this hotel, the the Great Northern, and he's actually getting ready to make a deal with the Norwegians to buy the Ghostwood Forest and the Packard Sawmill, which again is owned by Jocelyn Packard. And yeah, Benjamin Horn, who's played by Richard Beamer, is talking with his lawyer, Leland Palmer, and that is the father of Laura Palmer. And Leland Palmer, who's played by Ray Wise, is in control. He's basically saying, do you have your alibi for Ghostwood? Do you have your alibi for the Packard Mill? Okay. And then, let's go do this. And then, Ben Horn's like, let's get these cheese eaters where they live. And, they're basically sitting there, talking to them, like giving all this good press about Twin Peaks. All of a sudden, a phone call for Leland comes in. Leland goes away. Ben wants him to hurry up because they can finalize the deal. But Leland's talking with Sarah. Sarah Palmer is starting to freak out. Can't find their daughter. And he's like, well, no, he's with Bobby. Maybe she's with this. And she's like, but she didn't come with you? No, honey. She's not with me. What's this about? And then all of a sudden, in the background, you see the sheriff's car stop. And then you have Harry come in. And then Leland just goes, Sheriff Truman. Oh, Leland, what is it? What's wrong? And she hears that. And then all of a sudden, he's like, is this about my daughter? And then, he's, not even having the phone to his place. Sarah is begging over the phone saying, tell me what's going on. And then all of a sudden he just says, yes, it is. Leland and shot and just drops the phone. And Sarah just starts screaming like, oh my God, my daughter is dead. So, again, I love it. No words need to be said. It's understood between both father and mother what just happened to their daughter. And very powerful scene.
And yeah, they didn't actually, tell them just yet that she's dead. But on the other hand, I don't think they even needed to because, again, she's been missing for a while. Her boyfriend hasn't been found yet. And it's kind of nice how David Lynch doesn't even need to say it. It's just the reaction, the actor's reaction is so perfect.
Well, yeah, and to the same time, I know we're talking about Ray Wise and Grace Zabrisky's reactions, but Michael Ontkean, who played Harry Truman, his sad reaction without even telling Leland was enough to say it all too. And I'm just like you said, Jared, great acting. And as it goes to that, we're basically at the school where we see all the kids there. We basically get Benjamin Horn's daughter, Audrey Horn, who looks like this big sort of 50s-ish femme fatale. When we saw her leave the Great Northern, she's in these 50s old tennis shoes, and then she's wearing these nice red high heels. You see
the stiletto heels.
Yeah. And again, I believe I got it right. You see you see Donna Hayward, Dr. Hayward's daughter, played by Laura Flynn Boyle, who's there. Oh, yeah, and Audrey Horne, I forgot, is Sherilyn Fenn. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. And then you have, oh, yeah, James Marshall, who's seen in the hallway with Donna and Audrey, who plays James Hurley. And you see where there's sort of this weird connection, and then all of a sudden, the kids are trying to get to class, and then all of a sudden you see this one greaser-like kid combing his hair, shutting his locker door, and then he's like sliding away like that, like doing a sideways dance.
I told him it's like somebody's a big fan of Risky Business with Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
And also I forgot like those hooker heels that one lady was wearing. Were they?
Oh, Audrey?
Yeah. Did they have like the little sequin sparkles on them?
Oh no. They were just
Okay.
straight up. I believe bright red. I didn't see any sparkles. Like you were wondering if there was a reference to Wizard of Oz.
I was about to say that. Yeah.
No. As far as I knew, I didn't see any. Maybe next time we go around it, we'll try to rewatch it. But I don't think they did. I think they were just very bright red. But that's just a very, very standout to the rest of her dress. That white top she was wearing, the yellow skirt. Very, very standout.
But yeah, you can see that Bobby's clearly one of the more popular dudes. I mean, hey. Kid's a natural. He's got an arm. He's got a future ahead of him. And he's got like the James Dean look, with like the jacket, the pants, the shirt, and all that.
Oh, you mean James?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, James. Yeah, I mean, you could tell he's rocking the James Dean look without the hair.
Yeah, basically greaser look without the hair, and he does ride a bike, which that'll come into play later on too. And to that same point, when we get to the school. Before we head to the classrooms, we have Bobby coming to school, and he's late, and his friend Mike's there, Mike, or Snake, played by Gary Hirschberger, comes in and says, "Hey, the principal wants to see you." And he's like, "What did I do? I'm right here." And then the principal's like, "Bobby Briggs, my office now." And then he does this weird, arrogant, choo-choo jog backwards and fronts to the office, and he's all cool. But then all of a sudden, he's talking with the principal, talking with Tommy Hawk Hill and Andy. Tommy Hawk Hill, who I believe let me check again. I believe that is Michael Horse. I think he's down here. Yeah, I think he's more towards.
Wasn't it up there?
Michael,
yeah, right.
Oh, Michael Horse, yeah, Deputy Tommy Hawk Hill. And yeah, Hawk, who is played by Michael Horse. And, they're talking with him, and Andy and Hawk are just asking him, where were you late last night? Did you have any problems? Are you angry? Because, Bobby's getting standoffish with them, and, Hawk's going, you angry with something, Bobby? And he's like, no, I don't understand what's going on. You have basically, Harry come in and say, principal, why don't you go ahead and make the announcement now? They go out. He basically drops the bombshell that, that Laura Palmer was dead, and he's like, she's dead? And he's like, yeah, he died last night. Do you know where she was? And it's like, she was with me, and we were studying together, and we left. And then that's all he has. So not a very strong alibi, but as they're looking at him, they're saying, we're going to bring you in for questioning. And he's like, you believe I killed her? Me? I loved her. I didn't do anything. And he's trying to fight them off. Andy has to get behind him to block him and basically restrain him, and basically they're like, we'll talk about this later. And then classrooms, the announcement is given, but before the announcement is given, you have a cop come in talking to one of the teachers as the teacher's doing roll call. And everything's fine. Audrey is just sort of blasé there. Donna's in a good mood. James is in a good mood. Looking at Donna too, sort of dreamy-like. But then all of a sudden, as the principal's talking with the cop, Donna and James look over to Laura's empty seat, and they're thinking, and then all of a sudden Donna starts tearing up. James is with his pencil like that, oh shit.
Yeah, he just snaps it off with his thumb.
Oh yeah, that's what the teacher's like, there's going to be an announcement.
Yeah.
And so basically before the announcement is given, Donna knows something happened. James knows something happened. And then Audrey, who seems like she didn't know Laura that well, is given this look of, how did that happen? Like this curiosity of the femme fatale wanting to know. I didn't know this girl Laura all too well, but how did she die? And to make matters worse, the principal gives the announcement. He lets them out of school to mourn Laura, and they took a moment of silence, and the principal was breaking up too and things like that because he couldn't believe what happened. And there's a long, awesome tracking shot in this empty, creepy school hallway where it basically shows the homecoming queen Laura Palmer's picture in the window case.
One of the shots also in that scene is a long panning shot of all the little lockers, which in this school are built into the wall. So you have them stacked on top of each other. I told him this is brilliant because it makes it look like you're in a mausoleum rather than a school. The white walls, the lockers which offset the color.
Yes.
And just that chill quiet. It's like when you walk in a mausoleum. You're in a land of death.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you have that idea. So they're let out of school early. And to give you a little side note, it wasn't wholly important to the story as of yet, but it is a great character setup because you have Audrey, who's back at the Great Northern. Her and her family live in the hotel. She's at the Great Northern, and I'll mention these two scenes simultaneously. She has her pencil and the receptionist concierge's cup of coffee. She's like, what would happen if I remove this pencil? And then all of a sudden she takes it out. Coffee spills all over, and then there was a previous scene where there was this side manager who told the concierge, Janet, I believe her name was, that don't let them find out about Laura Palmer's murder, could ruin the whole merger, because Leland left, so the merger's on hold, and then all of a sudden, after Audrey does that, the concierge tried to stop the coffee, and she's like, Audrey, don't go in that room with the Norwegians. Audrey, don't go into the room with the Norwegians. And then she goes in there, and she just eyes the smorgasbord of food, and she's just dancing there sheepishly while there's a boo, 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 boo. Basically a very bubbly, weird music going on. And then
I think it was a standard polka.
Oh, standard, that's probably what it was, standard polka, yeah. And then all of a sudden, she's just standing there, and the Norwegians look over huh? And then the lead Norwegian goes, is there something wrong, young pretty girl? My friend Laura, she was murdered. Her face was found down in a rocky beach, cold and wet and apparently plastic or whatever else I heard. And I'm just very sad that my dear friend Laura was killed so brutally. And then they're looking at each other, and then, and then, believe it or not, that did it to where they're leaving, and the concierge is going, the Norwegians are leaving, the Norwegians are leaving, the Norwegians are leaving, and then Ben is trying to stop them leaving, but they say this town has death in it and they could get killed, not safe going on. And then all of a sudden you see Audrey, who's still inside the hotel, looking at her dad and the Norwegians, and she's actually sort of doing a tease, laughing like she can't believe what she did. So you may think right now that isn't nothing, but she's actually doing something that I will say is basically trying to stand up and also stand out to her father, because again, like I said, she's this femme fatale character with dreams, and that'll come into play more as the episodes continue on with
Boku,
her. What's up?
Who knew that the only thing the Indians and the American revolutionaries had to do to get the Norwegians out of the country was to send Audrey?
Yeah. And, how about that?
If you get the joke, you understand.
Yeah. Oh, and on another side note here for another character, there's her brother, Johnny Horn, who seems to be mentally incompetent, and he's basically banging his head on a toy house. And you have his mother, played by, Mrs. Horn, which, let's see, Sylvia Horn, played by Jan Darcy. And I think they have, they have Johnny Horn,
Robert Davenport.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, Robert Davenport. Johnny Horn, played by Robert Davenport. Thank you, Jarek.
No problem.
And, basically banging his head on the thing, and then the nurse comes down and says, Sylvia, or Mrs. Horn, maybe it'd be nice if you would tell Johnny about Laura. Well, the thing is, Laura's dead. She won't be coming in today. She won't be coming in tomorrow. She won't be coming in any day after that. What is so friggin' hard to understand about that? And I didn't let you know this, Jarek. There was a deleted scene I saw in the Blu-ray where there was a part where I think it was right before they were going to Laura's funeral. Sylvia Horn is being rather mean to Johnny, and she comes in and says, Mom, stop. Audrey comes in and says, Mom, stop, you're hurting him, you're hurting him. Don't you tell me I'm hurting him, you bitch. You did this to him. You threw him down the stairs. And then and she's like, Mom, I didn't mean to do it. That was an accident. We were both playing there, and he fell. And then she's like, no, she didn't. You pushed him. And then, I won't mention who plays him now, but Dr. Jacoby, who's another integral character to this, is there and says, no, Johnny is actually choosing to be this way. Whatever he saw, whatever happened, you live near the woods. You said this also started sometime around after he was out in the woods. He's choosing to be this childlike, to be in his mind. We have to see if we can coax him out of it. And then I'm sitting here, I'm like, I know this won't be a part of the main show anymore, but I'm wondering, did Johnny see something in the woods, or did he possibly have access to, little spoiler warning here for you guys, the lodges?
Well,
because that's the thing. If he's choosing to be childlike and isn't really mentally incompetent,
You know what that reminds me of?
What?
Well, two things. Like, anybody who's a bit of a watcher of the BBC dramas, I saw something nasty in the woodshed. And also, strangely enough, if anybody's familiar with the Who's rock opera Tommy, do you see and hear, or do I smash the mirror? Yeah, because in that one, Tommy basically pretends to be deaf, dumb, and blind after his parents murder a guy for trying to smash a mirror.
Yes, and that's sort of a great analogy to it, Jarek. And as we go along, that's sort of the Horn family. To the same time, we also have learned that another father who works at the timber mill, Yannick Pulowski's daughter, has gone missing. Oh, and this is while they're also giving a interview to Sarah Palmer, who had to be sedated, and is basically saying, I talked to my daughter, I told her good night, and who's that upstairs? Oh, it's your husband and Hawk, and they're also gathering up Laura's things, and she's like, I could tell by the footsteps it isn't her, but then you could tell the point of interest here when she says, who's upstairs? She looked like that because she saw someone up there, someone we're not going to reveal yet, but she saw someone up there who wasn't necessarily her husband or Laura, but we'll mention that later, and I've realized that's probably why she reacted like that, because who's upstairs. And to the same point as they're going through the stuff, that's where the Palmers got a phone call, Andy picked it up, and that's where we learn Yannick Pulowski's daughter has gone missing, a girl named Rena Pulowski, who I believe I think they had her in here too. Where are you, Rena? Maybe you're further down. Run it. Yes, F.B.I. Augustine, who plays Rana. And again, sorry if it takes me a while, guys. The pilot episode had a rather huge cast in this one. And, F.B.I. Augustine, who played Rana Pulowski, has gone missing. They don't know what to do. Yannick Pulowski's distraught. Basically, you have the scene where Jocelyn Packard and Catherine are arguing because Josie wants to shut down the mill. Catherine's like, no, you're not going to do it. You don't know what this will cause. This will have us lose money. We're not shutting us down. You know what Ben Horn's trying to do. You're going to cost us money. You're going to cost us this mill. And then she's like, I have the final say-so, Catherine. I know what I'm doing. I will shut us down. She's like, you don't know the first thing about this mill. That's why I'm running it. And poor Pete is stuck in the middle. And then Jocelyn's like, Pete, pull the plug. And then Catherine's like, Pete, don't you dare. Catherine, please. And then they basically shut it down. And Josie says, if you want to grieve with your families, go ahead. Catherine's upset at Josie, fires a random person named Fred Truax, because that's how ticked off she is. And as we learn by this firing, we see in the next scene Rena Pulaski, who's in a torn white dress. Her hands look like they've been bound up. She's sort of bloody and beaten a little bit. And she's walking over this bridge of the train tracks where there's a train track worker working on it. And he just looks over and goes, "What the hell?" And, they find her and they bring her in and all that jazz. And, oh, yeah, Leland looks at the body of Laura Palmer. He's all distraught and upset. As you can imagine, just, holy crap. Yes, that's my baby girl, that's my Laura, and, it's like, he can't handle it, Dr. Haywood's sad, Harry understands, but he doesn't want Leland to endure that grief, and that's when one of our favorite characters, the main character, comes into the show, Special Agent Dale Cooper, played by Kyle MacLachlan, who is this very bubbly, very just, I want to say, fantasy-like, comic bookish, maybe even, I'm going to basically say it here, based off Dudley Do-Right sort of character. This just perfect, bubbly, just out-of-place FBI guy. Someone you would never find in the FBI today, not to bring it in that route, but someone you would never find in the FBI today. Just coming down the road saying, I stopped for a place of lunch at the Lamplighter Inn. Damn good pie. Look at these trees. It was 6:22. Diane, if you give me one of those pillows, he goes over everything he did in such a way it just seems bizarre.
And he's talking into a little voice recording tape
recorder, yeah.
And if any of you have this game or have heard about it, he reminds me so much of the main character from Deadly Premonition, who's also an FBI agent, but I think his name's Agent York.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, don't buy that on Steam. They're discontinuing support for Windows 8, which is what it has to run on, so get it on the Nintendo Switch or the Xbox 360. But very interesting game, and I told this guy, it's this is basically Twin Peaks, the video game.
Yeah,
Agent York
did mention that. Yeah.
Agent York is just basically Dale Cooper.
Mm-hmm. And as you can see, there's just all these weird things that just take place and all that stuff. And Dale Cooper really is a part of it because he's this guy who you would never expect to meet an FBI agent. And he meets with Harry S. Truman. Harry's happy to see him. Dale Cooper's wanting to work with him, and he's like, let's get something straight. When we're down here, we have the main say-so, but I don't want to try to step on your toes, but just don't step on mine. And, they agree, and, they're walking down, and they're at the hospital, as you can imagine. He first meets with Rena Pulaski, and, he wants to talk with her, but the doctor's saying, we don't know where she is. She probably doesn't know where she is or when she is, because she's unconscious, she's out of it, she's developed really bad injuries, head trauma, well, maybe not head trauma per se, but what she went, her mind has gone through trauma.
No, she definitely had head trauma, because she had a black eye that extended from one eye
the black eye,
to the other, her forehead was brown, whoever did this to her, they must have beaten her to a level even Ike Turner wouldn't have done.
Yes.
She was messed up, so yeah, she probably had more than a little head trauma and psychological damage.
And then, believe it or not, Dale Cooper wants to look at her hands, and Harry Truman's like, well, we've already tested for particles and all that. We found nothing. And he's like, well, here, let me just look. And then he's looking with a magnifying glass right into her fingernails. The doctor and Truman are like, okay, whatever this is. And then all of a sudden, Rana, sort of comes out of it a little bit. She doesn't open her eyes, but she's like, no, don't go there. Don't go there. Don't go there. And then all of a sudden, that's all they get out of her. And then they go to check Laura's body where there's a bad transformer in the light, and the light's doing this creepy blinking as they're looking at her. And then all of a sudden, Cooper has the magnifying glass again in hand, and he's like, he says to the coroner, hey, could you please leave the room? And he's like, oh, you want me to go out? He's like, yes, if you could, and shut the door. And he goes out, and Truman's like, I don't understand what you're looking for. We exhumed her body, found nothing. We found nothing on Ronette. I don't know what you're looking for. And it's not as bad, but it's pretty if you guys are screaming, she sticks a tweezer down her fingernail, the ring fingernail, and basically pulls out with a little bit of like flesh a little piece of paper, tiny piece of paper that he opens it up and puts it on a clear plastic plate so they don't contaminate the evidence. But it is the letter R, just the letter R on a little piece of paper stuffed in her fingernail. And he's like, Diane, I knew we'd see this again. I knew we'd see this again. Don't go to Sam. Go to Albert. He has better experience with this. And then he's like, you want to tell me what's going on here? And he's like, Sheriff, we have a lot to talk about. And then...
Now, interesting thing about this, you might think it's kind of inconsequential, but it was brilliant, though, because your fingernails, like the reason... If you ever wonder why I wear gloves, I used to work in multiple cafeterias and hospitals, and one of the first things they tell you is that your hands are the biggest and most dangerous entryway for bacteria and disease, especially your fingers, because if that shit gets underneath your fingernails, that is a perfect breeding ground. It protects them from most of the outside elements. It's dark. It's a perfect place for like... Sorry.
You alright?
Yeah, for bacteria and fungus. For instance, when I was a kid, I actually got a really bad fungal infection underneath my big toe, and my uncle had to pry my big toenail up so he could go in there with a scalpel, cut it open, and drain it. That shit fucking hurts, by the way. That was the worst pain I was ever in my whole life.
Well, yeah, that's why you don't fiddle around with infections.
But the funny thing is, like in police investigations, some of the best areas to get like DNA and forensic evidence underneath the fingernails, because if a girl's going to fight back, there's a good chance she's going to use her nails, skin tissue samples, blood. You would be surprised the stuff that gets in there.
Yep. And to that same point, as they're getting ready to talk about this stuff, you actually have it to where you have Cooper checking out several things. They're at the police station, looking through the evidence, checking the evidence, wanting to look at things, and then all of a sudden, they get to the diary, not finding much, and then they didn't have the key for Laura's diary, but Cooper just snatches it open, breaks the lock, and then basically using his strength, because it's a tiny little book, so I can understand how a guy would be able to do that. And he's like, and Truman's like, well, that's one way to get it open. And as they're looking for it, she's like he reads a few passages, nervous about meeting Jay tonight. We're having asparagus for dinner. I hate asparagus. And then all of a sudden, he turns it back to the pages. And then at the beginning of her diary, there is a little plastic baggie that he takes out. And there's a key inside, also with white residue. And then he takes out the key with a little, hook thing, so it doesn't contaminate the evidence again. And he's like, Sheriff, we'll take this key, see what it belongs to. But also, if you test that white residue, I'm going to say that's positive for cocaine.
Well, and if I remember, he specifically said that by the looks of the key that it was to a safety deposit box.
Ah, yes.
Which again, Dale Cooper, being a consummate professional, would most likely be able to tell just by looking at it. Because, again, this was very late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the story it was finished by 1990 and released in 1990, but they probably had the plot and the story take place in 1989. Because like we said, we noticed the calendar at the timber mill said 1989, so I'm going to say 1989 is when the story took place. So yeah, 1989, 1990, yeah, you can tell pretty easily.
Plus, they also found one of those really nice, by the standards of the time, personal camcorders, for filming home movies and whatnot.
Oh, yes.
Which they confiscated that too. But I love how when they're, going through Laura's stuff, he's like, really? Do we have to take the diary? It's like, and it's a case. It's a murder case. And Cooper kind of alludes to the fact earlier on that this case bears similarities to another case he was following in another area. Same MO, same style. It's like, I want to catch this guy as quickly as possible. So, again, Dale's quirky, he's weird, he's eccentric, but you can tell this dude's a thinker, man. This guy's got a lot going upstairs.
Yeah, he definitely is a great agent. And to that same thing, like I said, after they found the white residue and he wanted to test it for cocaine, Harry Truman's like, no, that's not possible, Coop, you're wrong on that one. And he's like, well, what do you mean? Cocaine? You didn't know Laura Palmer. Everyone in this town knew her. And then he just looks at him with a smile and he's like, well, Sheriff, that's the thing. Maybe you guys didn't know Laura as well as you thought you did. And believe it or not, they go to the safety deposit area take out the box where there's a weird deer head on the table. Oh, it fell down. It's creepy because it looks like it's looking up at him. And, they take out the safety deposit box to where they find 10 grand and a bunch of Flesh World pornographic magazines.
Which, for those of you who don't know,
deposit box.
It's kind of a low-rent Playboy / penthouse for the time.
Mm-hmm.
Probably a regional one, too. But, yeah, I mean, $10,000 in cash.
$10,000 in cash.
And, again, like, with the cocaine, it's like, how well... It's like, Truman, how well do you all know Laura Palmer exactly?
Yeah. And believe it or not, that's what Truman said. I can't believe it. And he's like, you find things that shock you. Oh, yeah, and then he opens up a page that was marked, and he's like, there's a page that's marked. He's like, got this child's face on it, opens it up to where it's marked, Rana Palowski, circled in red on the page. And then, believe it or not, this is where they start doing the interviews. And before we get to the interviews, we're introduced to another new character, Ed Hurley, who's played by Everett McGill, who's basically the owner of Big Ed's gas farm. And Ed Hurley is an uncle to James Hurley, who's, I'm going to say, it's his sister, who is the mother to James. But the mother isn't there, and we'll find out why. That'll be released in several episodes ahead, why Mrs. Hurley is not around James's mother. And, he's broken up about Laura, and Ed's like, I know, but what you're going to do? He's like, well, I don't know, I can't be here right now. He takes off. All of a sudden, Donna comes up, and he embraces Donna, so he's got a good relationship with Donna, it seems like. Oh, the meanwhile, too, while he's working, his wife, Nadine Hurley, is fiddling in the living room.
Yeah, she's got her priorities.
She's, messing with drapes or doing it. I think, she wasn't in the main character cast of this one, but I believe she's, mentioned here somewhere. Oh, yes. Let's see here. What was it? Oh, there it is. Yeah, Wendy Robbie, who plays Nadine Hurley.
Yeah, I remember she was telling him this, I want those drapes up by
10, or before 10.
Yeah, before 10, and it's like, it's almost 10 at that point. And she's got an eye patch, you can tell this is a woman with some very serious goddamn issues.
Yeah.
And don't worry, they're going to get more interesting as time goes on.
Oh, yes, and believe it or not, as he's talking about with Laura and feeling sad, you also have Mike/Snake come up, Donna's boyfriend, and he's yelling at her saying, you need to be there with me to support, Bobby, we need to make sure he gets out of prison. And she's like, well, I'm dealing with stuff right now, Mike, I can't go. And then they're having a fight, and then all of a sudden, he's like, Donna, you come when I say come. And then he's like, why don't you leave her alone? And she's like, and he's like, I don't need to leave her alone, Ed. And he's like, you're on my lot, friend. Oh, Ed, I'm not your friend. And, basically just peels out, and she's like, I know how to pick him, don't I, Ed? And then, that's where Nadine comes out, and Jarek was saying, he screams at her about the drape runners, and he's like, yeah, I know how to pick them too. And,
Yep.
So that continues on. And, I forgot too, while they were at the hospital, this is where it happened, I forgot a crucial scene. Like I said, if it seems like I'm going through it fast, that's because I am, because I know sometimes you can get bogged down in it, so I'm trying to be more clear and concise about it. But I have a feeling this is going to be a two-parter because we're almost at the hour. Like I said, I wouldn't go over an hour anymore. But, or if we did go over an hour, that's when we'd stop. But yeah, we're already at 53 minutes, just letting you guys know. But, they run into a Dr. Jacoby who's annoying, some nurses with his talk. And he's got these two big foam things sticking out of his ear. He's got two different colored glasses, 3D-looking glasses. One side's red, the other side... Interesting. One side red, one side blue. I'm surprised the other one wasn't white.
Well, and the funny thing is, one side red, one side blue. What do you want to bet he's a Grateful Dead fan? Just saying.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned that last time, Jarek. Yeah, you did.
But I love how the second they see him, they try to take the elevator down to avoid him. He sees him. He runs all the way down the stairs to get there first. And I love how Dale Cooper handles this. He's like, oh, guys, I know why you're here. You're here about Laura Palmer. Funny thing, apparently she didn't tell her parents that she was my client because apparently he was her psychiatrist.
And he laughs creepily about it.
Yeah, and
Laura had a lot of problems.
well, hey, maybe that was why she was doing the Charlie Sheen sugar in her spare time. Sorry about that.
Oh, and then he wanted to go to the morgue with him, and Dale Cooper's like, "Yes, I would mind if you come with us.
But
why would you want to?"
But maybe we could use your help later on.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can tell this guy is emotionally attached to this case.
Yes, and well, like I said, that creepy laugh of her. She didn't tell her parents they were seeing me. You know what it's like?
Yeah, what was she seeing you for, Dr. Jacoby?
Mm-hmm. And I believe, Dr. Jacoby. I remember I've seen the name a lot, but I'm blanking on it. Let's see. Dr. Jacoby. Oh, Dr. Lawrence Jacoby. Yeah, Russ Tamblyn, who plays Dr. Jacoby. And, there was also another character of note who was in the elevator with him going down to the morgue. A weird-looking one-armed man who wasn't making any eye contact with them, but Cooper and Harry looked at it like, this guy's weird, and he just gets off and, looks around and just walks away. The reason I bring that up is this one-armed man will become important to the story later on. Way important to the story.
Don't worry, though. He's not being pursued by Tommy Lee Jones, though.
Yeah. What a fugitive. Which, it's funny. Little side note here. David Lynch wanted to have this show be like a fugitive because I will tell you, they do solve, for any of you who have not seen this, I'm pretty sure a lot of you have will watch this, but for any of you who have not seen this, they will solve the murder of Laura Palmer. David Lynch originally did not want that solved because she was the golden branch or the golden goose that laid the eggs. Me and my friends all seem to disagree with David Lynch on this, though. We think it had to have been solved at some point because it was the main piece that brought it. I mean, it would be cool if all these things would spin from Laura Palmer, but why was Laura Palmer so important? And he still keeps, throughout the 3 seasons and the prequel movie, he still keeps that a mystery. We don't know the whole mystery of Laura Palmer, so I understand what he originally wanted to do, but I think with the reveal, it gave us so much more to a deeper rooted thing that
plus I'll say
we would not even want to know in our nightmares.
Plus I'd say this, Mr. Lynch, I think it actually makes it better knowing who it was. And there were a lot other mysteries or story threads that never got completely resolved. So honestly,
absolutely.
So again, it's not like he didn't follow the golden rule of not explaining everything. There's still a few things left to the imagination, but I agree with Boku. You have to explain the Laura Palmer murder because that adds some very dark, creepy context when you find out.
Yeah, and like I said, we still don't know everything about Laura Palmer or the whole Palmer family for that matter and everything else. So I think Lynch still kept the mystery alive. I know to him that sort of seemed like a betrayal about how fans wanted to know, the network wanted to know. But that's the thing with TV. TV, there's a lot of more added pressure. And that's the thing about David Lynch. He does not want to give up creative freedom, which I express, and I love that he did. But you know what? Like I said, he took what he was given in the first 2 seasons, may not have liked what he did, but you made a hell of a prequel movie, and you made a hell of a 3rd season, Mr. Lynch. So, bravo. You turned what you didn't like into gold. And I will just mention, we'll probably end it here because we're in the last 2 minutes, so we'll probably continue this later, which we'll get into the investigation parts next time, and the town meeting, and the whole ending of it, and hopefully we'll be able to get to our favorite performances and our final thoughts on it, but we'll probably end it here. So we'll be doing our first 2-parter, Jared, for once. Since we discovered since we weren't going to do that.
If you guys like what you see, maybe tell us if you want to hear our weird, crazy theories. Our Twin Peaks theories.
Oh yeah. And hey, you said you were going to do that too, and you were going to do it. And I will say, one thing I told Jarek that we would do is maybe in between the shows, maybe when we have all the shows finished, including the prequel movie, I said, if you want to get the whole experience of the Twin Peaks, I want to even go through the books and give you guys what the books reveal. Because Mark Frost, who wrote the books in conjunction with the 3rd season, with David Lynch, those books reveal a lot more stuff too. And it's like, Twin Peaks is a great place, but it's also a place and also other parts of the world and lore and religion. Some of this stuff you don't want to look into, but hey, that is just us. Well, right now, that's where we'll leave it here. I will probably leave these little notes right here so we don't lose them. But until then, what do you guys think of the review so far? Have you seen Twin Peaks? Have you guys watched this at all? Let us know what you think, because to me, I will tell you guys, and I'll be very candid about this, because yeah, I don't want to go way over here, but I will let you know. This right here is my favorite show, 24, which we will probably get back to that once we're done with the next movie and a couple anime go-rounds that we have to do. We'll probably get back to 24 before getting back to this, and of course Legion of Superheroes. But this is my favorite show, 24 being my second favorite show, but this right here is my favorite TV show of all time. I love this show to death. The 3 seasons, the prequel movie, good stuff. You guys will probably see how I nerd over this. And like I said, I want to read and review the books. That's how much of a nerd I am.
Twin Peaks is what Lost wishes it was.
Yeah, guys, and I'll say that right now. If any of you mentioned that in the comics, I respect Abrams. Abrams does have a visual brilliance, and he does seem to have a way of filmmaking that does accentuate David Lynch, but where David Lynch can also give you storytelling and make you think about the mystery, I think that's what Abrams lacks. That's just my opinion. And I will take a lot of fans off. I think Abrams is a David Lynch wannabe. I don't think he will ever get to his level. I think he'll be middling to subpar, which is why my hand's down here.
I hate to say this, but Abrams wishes he was even M. Night Shyamalan at this point.
Yeah, but so does M. Night Shyamalan, which he used to be M. Night Shyamalan.
I mean, let's be honest.
Shyamalan mucked up his career.
David Lynch is going to be on a pinnacle those two are never going to touch.
Well, like you said, you mentioned Satoshi Kon, which, I mean, I haven't seen too much of his stuff, but I do know his work. I agree with you on that. Kubrick, I definitely agree with you, because, yeah, Kubrick, not the greatest person, and I know it hasn't been fully proven, but rumored to be a pedophile as well, so that's icky and gross, but a great film director nonetheless, and really did well on The Human Condition, and did multiple films like Lynch in a style like that.
Well, let me put it this way. One of the best Satoshi Kon anime movies of all time is shockingly relevant right now, and if I could ever find it, it's a mind-fuck and a half. It's called Paprika. You really want to see just how dangerous this whole addiction to social media is going to get? Watch that. It's going to mess you up.
Well, hey. But anyway, that's our little tidbits here. Like I said, we're not done with the review. Hopefully in the next couple days. We won't start anything new either for our reviewing and watching to get another one going, but we'll make sure we finish this first. Hopefully in another couple days or so, we'll get part 2 done. Finish it, and then hopefully down the line, because I will be going on vacation soon, so there may not be much coming out soon for like the next couple weeks, but I'll try to get some more of this done before I go on vacation. But again, what do you guys think? Do you guys like Twin Peaks? Do you like what the show is? If you haven't watched it, and I will say, if you like quirkiness, if you like weirdness, spirituality, Christianity, science fiction, give this show a watch. It is really damn good.
Yeah, really.
And honestly, now that I think about it, the Blu-ray covers are awesome, but I love this definitive gold edition box. I think when it comes to the original seasons, I love this version. Oh, did you hear that?
I'll check it out.
Yeah, but anyway, we gotta go, guys, and this is 012 Boku, and I will also sign off for Jarek. We'll see you again next time, right, guys? Deuces.